Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show live. Glad you're here with us today. Today is November 18th, 2025. And today, we actually, for the first time in quite a few days, we have more than two of us, which is super awesome. Some friendly faces back on the screen. So, Andy is with us today. Beth is with us. Anne is with us. Thank you, Anne, for joining us today. And I'm Brian. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting week. I mean, Beth and I kind of kicked it off yesterday. Karl was here yesterday too. I shouldn't kick him out. Karl was here for a little bit. I forgot about that. But yesterday we were talking a lot about the Gemini 3.0 and if and when and maybe and all the things. And then, a little bit of 5.1 was mixed in there. And we were talking about custom GPTs and what maybe their future is in vibe coding. We'll have to find out. And today it kind of kicks, the conversation kind of just keeps going. And we have news that came out not only on the Google side, but Grok and a couple other places as well. Jeff Bezos has got his fingers in some new projects. Once again, they don't go far with the names of these projects. Andy, I immediately thought of you as like, Jeff Bezos is it. Wait for it. He's going to be the co-CEO of Prometheus. I was like, yeah, man, we've got about 10 words these founders are willing to use. And as I joked yesterday with Beth, it's either in the stars, it's either astrology, or it's the 16th or 17th thing I've heard called Prometheus. It's like, come on, guys, let's just go a little outside the box here with some of the naming. But that's neither here nor there. Thanks everybody for joining us. We are live every single weekday, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you come back and hang out with us in case this happens to be the first time you're listening to our lovely podcast or our show, or more of a morning show, we kind of see it as. And don't forget that you can, not beyond liking and subscribing, there's a couple different ways you can interact with us. You can join our free Slack community, which is a great way. If you just can't be with us live, you can go to the Daily I Show community.com and sign up for that. You can also get the newsletter that goes out on Sundays. That's super easy. You go to our main website, thedailyAIshow.com, and you can sign up for that for free, and you'll be right in line with the next email. And then finally, if you happen to be around during this live hour, then we always recommend coming over to YouTube, where you will find all the lovely folks that we already have in here, like AA, Ron, and Cisco, and Greg is here. Thanks, Greg, for being here, and everybody else, and a few more in the doors as well. So you can always play along with us, and we always read the comments and oftentimes bring them directly into the conversation. So you are a part of this conversation if you are in our live comments for sure. Okay, that's all my intro and blurb. Let's kick it off with some news. And since you're our lovely guest today, do you have any news stories that you want to bring up first?
Well, right now the Cloudflare being down is a news story. I was just typing into the chat that it's not very helpful to me when Cloudflare goes down. Um, well, you know what? What I wanted to share today comes from a book. Is that allowable?
We're pretty fluid with the term news, so I say go
News.
for it.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
If it's
it was
news to
news
you,
to
it
me.
counts.
So we've gotten into lots of talk about agents and the future of work recently, and she leads AI. And we had a fascinating conversation over the weekend with an author named Suzel Wyville Jones. Suzel, Suzel Wyville Jones, who has recently published a book about AI agents and the future of work. And what was most interesting, and where we spent a lot of our time kind of tossing around, thoughts and feelings, was the fact that the AI agents, with their, infinite objectivity, stand the chance to speak truth to power in ways that human beings simply can't. In that we all are worried about retribution, right? If you point out that the emperor has no clothes, you better have a plan B and a plan C. For most people, right? At least that's probably the story we tell ourselves, whether it's true or not. And so the notion that I've been trying to wrap my mind around, that our agents may be our biggest allies, is one that really reframes for me, and for, about 50 of us who were in the room for the conversation, are kind of, I feel like there's a general negative vibe. It's maybe the fear of the unknown, at least in my circles. When we think about work culture and agents, it's like, job loss, yuckiness. We don't want our kids to be managed by an agent.
Mm.
But this was a really interesting conversation. So the name of her book is AI-Powered Business Transformation: From Strategy to Scalable Execution in Weeks. And I'll drop the Amazon link. And one final so I guess what I wanna leave people with the is maybe like the cliffhanger to go learn more about the positive impact that agents may have on things like social justice in the workplace. The other thing about the book that I wanted to leave with you all is Suzelle obviously builds on like 30 years of subject matter expertise, but she was at her grandkids' swim meet, realized, she was she was up high, she couldn't see her people, took her laptop out into the lobby and wrote the book. Obviously using AI as a partner, but it's like, you have 30 years of expertise, get it out of your brain and get it out into the world. So
Yeah.
I think it was a really cool and newsworthy story, even though it's not like the book hit the stands, in the
Yeah.
last couple of days. So
Well, we do have some quick follow-up comments here. Cisco would like to know what a book is. Is it a new operating system or LLM? Never heard of it. Uh,
I
Loose
answered that about
distributed, but
it's an
Cisco books are like Notebook LM notebooks, but not multimedia. That's what Beth said back. And then also, Double A Ron giving you a little bit of a shout out. I like Ann Days. Her takes are so wholesome, and we agree. That's why we have Ann
Aw,
on here as
thank
well. So
you.
we agree. Double A Ron. I just like saying your name, Double A Ron. It's fun.
Double A
Um,
run.
so it's a great handle. All right, very cool. Beth or Andy, jump in with whatever you got on the mind for news. Yeah, you're muted,
I'm
Andy.
going to spin off the reference to Prometheus and just explain a little bit of what that is about in the context of what world models are as a major development direction in AI. Project Prometheus, which Jeff Bezos is now kind of coming out of quasi multi-billionaire retirement to be the CEO of, is it's already instantiated. It has 100 employees that they've kind of poached away from multiple AI labs, and it's focused on physical AI. Now you can imagine that Amazon would benefit largely from this kind of development. When we talk about world models and the physics component of AI, we're moving beyond LLMs and the transformer models in the way that they deal with text and language, multiple languages, and fluency across all of them. And we're moving towards an understanding of how the real world works. And so AIs are being trained to do that, and Prometheus is really focused on that. He's he's working together with a fellow named Vic Bajaj, who is a physicist who worked at Google's Moonshot Lab, and the two of them together are the leaders of this new Prometheus thing. So what it's doing is it's going to advance all those areas of scientific development and business operations management development that have to do with real world operations. Amazon is a beautiful example of that, but also Blue Origin, the aerospace company that Jeff Bezos has, will be exploiting the results of Project Prometheus. And so we see that happening. At the very same time, yesterday, NVIDIA announced a whole family of open source models called Apollo. Okay, so probably a reference to the aerospace industry to some degree.
I didn't even catch that. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, so it's open models that have been trained specifically for accelerating industrial and computational engineering, and across the kinds of things that you might expect, like electronic device automation and semiconductors for NVIDIA, right? We're working with real physical spaces inside the chips, but trying to shrink them down to the nano level. Structural mechanics, so science and development for actual engineering of automotive, consumer electronics, and aerospace. Computational fluid dynamics. So there's a lot of opportunity to go into fluid dynamics. There's even fluid processors that could be designed out of these kinds of models. electromagnetics and multiple approaches just in the world of physics. So these new models, have been rolled out, and they're actually already in use with a wide swath. You know how Jensen, he loves to make an announcement, but he's already got this working behind the scenes. Well, there's a list of about 15 or 20 major companies around the world that are already using the Apollo model lines in their sort of cutting edge development of these things. So you've got Prometheus over here at Amazon working on the world of physical modeling. And you've got now NVIDIA's Apollo family of models, which is all about physics and physical space modeling. So that's we thought, 2025 was really the year of agents, and I think that's true. We've seen a lot of advances, and we're wrapping up the year with a wide range of agentic capabilities. At the same time, the next wave is clearly going to be, and maybe 2026 is all about world models and physics, and so that gave me encouragement about NVIDIA's forthcoming, highly newsworthy announcement after the close of markets today of their third quarter results, and the entire S&P 500, the major weight of which is NVIDIA's stock alone. It's waiting to see whether there's going to be a conclusion by investors. There's a bubble, and things are actually retarding and slowing down, or whether the signals are inside NVIDIA's performance in the third quarter that say, no, this, along with many other forces, are really, pushing us dramatically forward in the world of AI.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is where it came from, because I heard this in passing, but I didn't dig into it, that Elon Musk had called Jeff Bezos a copycat. But now that you've explained Prometheus and thinking about Blue Origin, I see where that comment probably came from.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Prometheus had like a lot of funding, like, we're talking about 100 employees, a lot of funding. I don't know what the percentage is, but the vast majority of the $6 billion funding has come from Jeff Bezos. So to your point, Andy, he's been involved, but now I guess he's stepping back into this semi or co-CEO type role or whatever. And it'll be interesting when you read the articles on it. There's not a whole lot to say about it, other than this seems to be a trend that we're seeing over and over and over again. We just talked last week, although we haven't really spent a segment diving deep into it, but Dr. Fei Li's recent article and what she's doing with spatial intelligence and her push there, all of a sudden you start to see these same themes come up again and again and again. So not surprising to me at all to hear that Jeff Bezos wants to spend his time, which, let's be honest, he could literally spend his time doing whatever he wants, that he wants to focus on something that's in the physical world of AI. Yeah, Beth.
All right. So I have two things. I went to X to see if there was more information on the announcement that I saw that could be AI about NVIDIA making a deal with L'Oreal Cosmetics to the forefront of AI beauty, which I don't know if that's real or not. But it was it looked like a real thing. There was but of course it looks like a magazine handshake photo. But while I was there, Gemini 3.0 is in AI Studio. I dropped the link into our chat, so it is.
You heard it here first.
It is launched here. It is launched in the studio. I don't have it in my Gemini app yet, but this appears to be the day.
Yep.
Wow.
And just as you said it, because I looked in your comments, I was like, oh, that's coming from Beth. So then I went over to Google AI Studio, and over here in the top right, Gemini 3 Pro preview, confidential, new, our most intelligent model with state-of-the-art reasoning and multimodal understanding and powerful agentic and vibe coding capabilities. Currently, I'd have to check the pricing against, let's say, against 2.5. Let's compare those two. So 2.5 Pro was input tokens were 20,000 tokens was at $1.25. 3 is at $2. Output was at 10. 3 it's at 12. That was less than 200,000. Sorry, I read that wrong. But greater than 200,000 tokens. Instead of $250, it's $4. Instead of $15, it's $18. So definitely more expensive than 2.5 Pro, but it'll be interesting to see what it can do. And at the bottom here, it says its knowledge cutoff is the same as 2.5 Pro, which is in fact January 2025, which we don't really talk about knowledge cutoffs as much anymore. So I'm actually it's really nice that they put that in there. So you know up front, you don't just have to ask the model about it. And if you're in AI Studio, just like when you're in the playground for OpenAI, you have the ability to adjust your temperatures and different things, thinking levels, and a couple other features down there, as well as where the grounding for the Google search is. If you've ever played in like Azure Foundry, I'm sure in Vertex as well, you will get very familiar with grounding because there's a lot of that going on in terms of like what Microsoft does and how you ground with Bing. And it's a term that really didn't come up until I was starting to play in those areas. So yeah, so that's thanks, Beth, for the probably breaking news. I haven't heard anybody else say it.
Let me mention one thing about the knowledge cutoff dates. You notice there that the knowledge cutoff date is the same for Gemini 3 as it was for 2.5 Pro. January of 2025, almost a year ago now. And I think that the point I want to make is that it's no longer so important what the pre-training data cutoff was, because now the advances that we're getting in the models are less about scaling the data ingestion and less about the recency of the data in order to provide up-to-date information. Why? Because all of the advances that we're getting in reasoning don't have much to do with the data, which is just the basic building blocks of learning the language. And also, we now have very competent tools seamlessly interacting with the model and bringing in web search, real-time data to augment the pre-training data at the cutoff. So you don't really need to worry about, I'm going to not have as much recent information in the model anymore if I use Gemini, with this old thing, and maybe some other model has a more recent cutoff date. That's receding in importance in my view.
Yeah. And like you said, how often do we talk about it? That it's something like, oh, well, where is that knowledge cutoff or whatever? Because the searching has gotten so much better. Gareth is saying in the chat, according to the model card, which I haven't looked at yet, it looks incredibly better than previous models. Yeah. I mean, that seemed to be, Beth and I talked about this a lot yesterday, and Karl as well on the show. So that seemed to be what the hype was. So now everybody will be able to jump into AI Studio. Interesting enough, I couldn't give it a document. It wouldn't support a document. So, but I'd be curious to see. Probably its vibe coding is where I would be most curious, because I feel like there was a lot of recent push in that area, especially in sort of Google AI Studio with 2.5 Pro. So I don't have a side-by-side comparison. Of course, that's kind of what you need, right? To really evaluate these models, but I will be curious to play with it. I will say, just, not to fanboy on Google a little bit here, because we did talk about it yesterday, and I'm sure there's other news other than the major players here, but I did use it for a project yesterday that I normally use ChatGPT for, and I was within 3 minutes instantly happy that I made that decision. What a better experience overall. Just working through and breaking things down. I felt that, and this is 2.5 Pro, obviously this wasn't 3. I felt that Gemini was doing a better job of predicting my next needs and serving that up in a way that made really good logical sense. I often find with ChatGPT that the predictions of where this is going and following the breadcrumbs don't really line up with what's reality. It seems to be these offshoots, like take these side quests here, take these side quests there, instead of staying focused on the task. And, I'm pretty good with prompting, as far as like we all are, as far as like setting myself up for success. So I don't really love that I have to nudge ChatGPT a lot of times back. And I haven't played enough with 5.1 to know if some of that may be fixed. But what I will say is, it was very evident to me that yesterday, going through this long process, that Gemini really had an understanding of what the bigger overarching goals were and never strayed. It would help me with problems. It would help me move through solutions and help. But it always in that thread came back to what we were doing. And I just love, like any model with any of them, but just flipping back to Flash when I know that that's going to be ideal, and then back to Pro again when I know that I needed that a little bit heavier thinking, and doing more of the manual switching versus a router method where you're waiting on the model to figure it out, versus me just saying, I know that this one is a lighter task. It's an error. And for errors, I need Flash.
Right.
For Pro, I need big projects.
And that's another thing about Gemini. I feel like Flash is better than its peers, right? It's better than Mini. I don't know, it's better than Sonnet, because Sonnet is like sometimes the top model now, but it's definitely better than Haiku, right? So for like Flash as a mid-level, I feel is like way better than others.
What I will be
Speaking of top models, so we got 3 today, and we'll be hearing much more about it in the coming days as the people who really have the time and attention to make direct comparisons with all the other major models will start doing that work for us. But yesterday, or maybe the day before, Grok 4.1 was released by XAI, and it had already gone under the name Quasar Flux on LM Arena. It had already gone to the #1 ranking overall for user preference. So now the question is, in LM Arena, will Gemini 3.0 bump past Grok 4.1? Now, Grok, I don't use Grok at all. And I've never understood why I would. But here's some interesting points about Grok 4.1's release. So it achieved the highest emotional intelligence score among tested systems, optimizing for personality traits like empathy and conversational tone. So it has that going for it. It reduced its own prior model hallucination rate from 12% to 4%, and cut factual errors by 66% compared to the prior version of Grok. And it also saw a significant upgrade in creative writing tasks, ranking just behind ChatGPT 5.1 on creative writing v3 benchmark. So it's really a state-of-the-art model in many respects, and was at the top of the LM Arena leaderboard, in effect, for user preference on the responses that people were getting in this kind of blind comparison that you get on the LM Arena.
For like a minute and a half, though, right?
Yeah, it was there at the top. We know, somebody took a screenshot of it, I'm sure, and then I expect that Gemini 3 will displace it, but it's not clear. I, like Brian, have been a big fan of Gemini and its role as an assistant, especially in the vibe coding environment. Gemini 2.5 Pro, and apparently Gemini 3 is far surpassing Gemini 2.5 Pro's abilities in vibe coding. So I'm eager to play with that.
By the way, I don't know if this is just a rush on the model or whatever, and I thought it was just my basic account, but I switched over to my scaled account, which is I have Pro, and both of them, without me ever trying Gemini 3, have both said I've exceeded my limits for Gemini 3. So
it's not me.
No.
I'm sorry, Anna, you saying that too. Was I deep in I was deep in the other screen as you were saying it, and I apologize.
No, and it was you. If you had not gone into Gemini 3 at that moment, then Brian would have been able to.
That's right. It was literally, there was 2 left, and you grabbed them. Yeah. I wanted to just call this out, because Andy had said, I don't know why I would use Grok, but you have called one, I think, really good use case for it is, and that's the obvious one where Grok scans and scrapes Twitter or X.
Yes.
And so that in itself becomes a really, really valuable tool. Also, this is probably not news except for me. So like I said, a little fluid with the term. It's news to me. I don't know how long it's been around, because I'm not a Reddit user, but I was doing research over the weekend for a side project, and I noticed that Reddit has a baked in basically, assistant agent, if you will, an AI mode that allowed me to just ask natural language questions, and it just brought back whatever it felt like the right Reddit results were. And I was like, ooh, a nice baked in Reddit agent is really, really nice, because there's a treasure, just like X, there's a treasure trove. Let the user decide whether it's good or bad data, but there's a treasure trove of data. And if you're trying to get sentiment analysis, if you're trying to get the pulse of things that are going on, yes, deep dives into Reddit, especially if you think you're going to build in a niche area, you go find that tribe on Reddit and you go deep and you try to figure out what it is that you are trying to solve a problem for. So I stumbled upon it, and it's like, it was like a nice little stumble to see that. So I don't know how long it's been around.
So it's been around a little bit, and it is how I use the AI it is how I use Grok, and it is how I use the AI associated with Reddit for the context of messages that Perplexity has found for me, right? In terms of Reddit. So there's like some information about user limits or a tutorial that's half written in that. I can then use the AI to say what's missing here, what's the context, and get fuller answers based on the knowledge corpus that is in there. And you refuse to believe that any product coming from Elon Musk is emotionally intelligent. Yes, but you have to remember that Twitter wasn't always that, and there were lots so there's like lots of emotional intelligence data, and I feel like one of the things they're doing with Grok is it keeps getting woke, right? It keeps getting like emotionally intelligent, balanced, all that stuff, and then Elon comes and says, this is unacceptable, right? Like, we must fix this immediately.
I don't, do you have I don't even know if we circled around you, Beth. Do you have a news story? And then I have one after you, if you have one.
No, we can make mine the 3-0. I will say that Gareth may have a suggestion as well in terms of how why everybody's rate limited. They haven't released it. They just put the card up and maybe blocked it. So
yeah,
that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, sometimes these things are literally live. I like to personally believe that it's a bit like Spaceballs, and somebody is literally standing at a computer with a giant dial, and they're like, "Are you ready for ludicrous speed?" Because can you imagine the hit on the servers when something like this rolls out?
Yes.
It's a lot, and so it's Google. I'm not worried about their data abilities, but you know what I mean? It's like, in my mind, I imagine somebody has a computer and is always, no matter what they plan for, is always shocked by the volume. I just think there's always somebody that goes, we didn't know it was going to get that crazy. I'm like, how did you not know? Whatever your prediction was, why didn't you add 20%? Like whatever it was, because you see them with OpenAI too. They're like, it crashed our servers. I'm like, how is that still happening? Like, it's shocking to me,
Because they're punching way above their server weight, right?
Google, right? You can't imagine Google.
No, not Google. OpenAI. OpenAI, absolutely.
Oh, OpenAI, yeah. I do have a quick news story, and this is kind of a scratch your head news story because I don't quite understand it. 11 Labs just came out, and they sent me an email and said, like, hey, you can now create videos and you can create images inside of 11 Labs. So before anybody thinks like, holy crap, 11 Labs came out with models, no, they just made it available for you to use all the models that are already out there, from Kling to everything else. There are many sites that do this, that basically just have portals into those particular APIs or whatever. I used to do this on Flux all the time at times for stuff with it, through the months and years for things that we have to produce for the show. It's not that it's, as far as a lift goes, it's probably not that heavy of a lift. 11 Labs themselves isn't necessarily, or they're not building these models. These are already publicly, even open source or otherwise, models. Yep. But that's not what 11 Labs is known for. And even more of a head scratcher to me is, I would think that if 11 Labs was going to be demoing this, that there would be a more emphasis. You can kind of see, like, here a little bit, they're talking about this lip sync, but if you go down, that's not really where they put the bulk of their information. It's more about, like, you can see here, upscaling or bringing your creations to life. And oh, by the way, you can edit, and there'll be a timeline, as you can see here, and there's audio video output. But 11 Labs, to me, is like a cut above when it comes to what they've done with AI voice. I've built several agents now, voice agents. I work with a client right now where I'm building them a voice agent. And it's really impressive. Like, to me, at least, it's really impressive. And then when you get into, connecting to Twilio, we have solutions now for this client where they're just simply able to dial up and they talk directly to the voice agent, and it doesn't really stutter when you get the right knowledge document behind it. So essentially with this client, what we do is we create this brief, and this brief gets attached to a number, like a phone number, right? And that phone number from Twilio gets connected to, it's all inside 11 Labs and their agent. And so the brief becomes which is also created by AI. That brief on what they need is brought in, and then becomes the knowledge for that particular agent to do its particular job. I won't say it's flawless, but it's really, really good. So I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't have any issue with this. Good for 11 Labs. Maybe they just feel like they want to be a one-stop shop, but I think, I would have rather them just keep focusing on what they do great with their voice, because I don't really feel like there's anybody else that kind of touches what they do.
Well, that's
So, like, why do it?
I feel like that's why they did this. So this is basically a video wrapper, right? You generate the video through
Yeah.
whatever model you were going to do, and it gives you one stop for the voice, for the background music, for the sound effects, all those kinds of things. And I feel like that's them making a play for they're better at those three things than anyone else. So if you're generating the video from the same model anyway, come to 11 Labs. Yeah.
I see your
It's
point.
not even Monday anymore, and I'm still on Monday vocabulary, apparently.
No, I see your point, Beth. If you're going to need video anyway, why not just remove the pain and say, well, now you can just do it inside 11 Labs. So I do see your point there. And I guess that's probably what it was. To me, when I first read it, I thought, oh, geez, man, is 11 Labs maybe not doing well? And they are making this pivot and saying, well, we're now going to be Canva. And I think, I don't want you to be Canva. I want you to be really, really good at 11 Labs, because you're already pretty great and you're ahead of everybody else. I don't know another voice agent that's, for me, I'm sure there are ones, but the voice agents that are out there, the models, I would pick 11 Labs over any of them at the moment. So anyway, it was just interesting. It came out. I have not had time to play with it, but I'm not sure that it'd be worth the demo, right? Like you said, Beth, it's like a wrapper. So I'm going to pick Kling. I'm going to create my video. I'm going to pay through the API cost or whatever it is. And then I guess the voice sync would be the most interesting. And then, I don't know, Gareth may have more knowledge on this. I know he created a video that's in our community that everybody should go sign up for our community, go check out, that he did. And, so he has, Gareth, you have more knowledge in probably the lip syncing than I do. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's I feel like this is one of those things that we see. It's like the AI version of, you made the movie, and then the marketing department got a hold of the movie and did all the movie assets. The engineers put this together, and this is my speculation, right? Like I don't have inside track on what 11 Labs does, but I feel like this was the engineers, were responding to, hey, wouldn't this be cool? This is a really interesting thing that we could do. And then it got passed on to marketing, and they said, oh, look, let's demo these things, which doesn't have anything to do with why you would do this at 11 Labs, right? Because you're right, those things that they're talking about aren't that big.
Gareth is saying Juan 2 is the only good at lip syncing.
Is the only good model.
So Gareth, maybe, I don't know, maybe you've already looked into it. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe 11 Labs is they didn't really announce that they got better at the lip syncing. So I guess if you're saying Juan 2, if Gareth's saying Juan 2 is already better, perhaps it is the better model for that.
Can I just say really quickly about the 11 Labs? Like, this user interface is a non-starter for me. There's absolutely no point in me spending the time to figure out what all of these features are on the top And then they've got that like thing in the middle with like brackets and like kind of a Mad Libs thing. And then they've got all those buttons on the bottom. Why would I participate in this? I don't
So you're saying it's
understand.
messy?
What's that?
It's messy? Is that what you're saying? I'm not, you know.
It's messy. It's maybe I'm used to having to like be clairvoyant about what the features are, but right here it's telling me how many different features there are, and it feels very overwhelming. Maybe unless you've been using 11 Labs a lot, which once I ran out of free credits for some reason, I decided that that was a bridge too far.
Mm.
The UI is bad. Okay, Greg's saying it's bad. Okay, it's not just me. Yeah.
But most
building
people
the agent,
use,
I don't get that,
but yeah, most people using 11 Labs would be using the API. I would think they wouldn't be using the UI to do
I do.
something. Right?
Yeah,
would
I
never
do
use
too.
an
I do to
API.
build a conversational agent because it's way easier to set it up in there, and then I use the API. So I push the transcript and the audio out from the calls that people are having that I'm building for the client, and I push that into N8N, and I do all sorts of stuff with it there. On top of most things, we want to preserve it, right? So we want to get it into like a super base or a vector base or a pinecone, and then we want to be able to ask semantic questions against it down the road. So yes, I don't know. Maybe it's a use case. I found actually their conversational agent UI to be super easy to use, but that is just one part of 11 Labs. So I'm not going to speak for the whole, but if you're on 11 Labs and you're building a conversational agent, it's kind of just tabs. It's just kind of like tab. It's very easy to figure out what the next thing is you have to do, but each is own, you know.
I still have PTSD about Higgs fields when we did the Higgs field demos. So it kind of depends on what you're comparing to, because this is messy, but this is not like you're in Las Vegas, everybody, and there's so much happening.
That can sort of be Leonardo too, but I haven't been in Leonardo in forever. But Leonardo was kind of like that too. It was like very like, yeah.
We had a demo. It is Hugging Face along these lines as well. Would you put Hugging Face in this category or no?
I'm not on Hugging Face enough to have an opinion.
Okay. Well, whatever, one of the ones where there's like a million different models. We had a demo one time, and during that specific demo, I don't know, maybe there was like, I don't know, 75 people there or something like that. My DMs of like the like written version of Rotten Tomatoes was like, I mean, people were pissed that we were bothering to demo with something that was so esoteric and complicated and like not useful in their real lives, that I think I have PTSD too, Beth, about some of these things. And like, but also, Andy, I think you bring up a really good point when you say most people are going to be using the API. I think that's like demonstrates like where we are with, we have people who are like going to use an API, and then we've got all of the rest of the people who don't even know what an API is, right? And these companies are trying to meet the needs of both of those groups. And I think that's like kind of a little bit of the backstory behind why people got so angry about 4 was because it was GPT-4, because it ruined the experience for the novice everyday user, and the other people, well, I don't know, it pissed them off too. Point being, these companies are trying to meet 2 different ICPs for sure, and one of them doesn't know what an API is.
Well, and that's a good point, because also built into that is if you are in a position where the way you're working with AI, you don't want to be at the whim of a new model. You want the API. The API you're subscribed to is September 25th, 2025, right? Like they don't update that. Your stuff stays like that. I mean, they update it eventually, but they don't drop it just like, sorry, oops, everybody. We apparently broke everybody's ChatGPT interface in this kind of way. So I feel like the API is both technical and also meeting needs that non-technical people have as well. They're just And I feel like that's one of the reasons that AI Studio and the platform interface and the console for Claude, that those things are actually slightly technical, more technical interfaces, but you don't have to know how to do an API call in code.
Yeah, so weaving off of this whole discussion about user experience design and how that impacts adoption and utilization, Google is going to be, with the release of Gemini 3, is going to have all the press about that. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, Google is continuing to progress the integration of AI into a wide range of services and making it really easy for you to adopt them. And so specifically in this past week, they've rolled out new travel planning features in search, which includes a canvas that emerges for custom itinerary development. You can work in the canvas to change your itinerary. It has a flight deals tool. I often, instead of going to kayak.com or Expedia or whatever, when I'm doing travel planning, I just go to Google Flights and I start there, right? Well, now they're fleshing this out more completely to cover the full range of application functionality that you need for travel planning, including a deals tool and, importantly, agentic booking. Okay, so along with this agentic booking release within the flight planning and travel planning features, they also have just launched, in time for the 2025 holiday season, AI-powered shopping. Okay, and that's it's built. Gemini is now built into the search's AI mode and the Gemini application, and it enables, among other things, voice calls to stores. So the Let Google Call feature is an AI agent that will call local stores to check availability and promotions and then send you a summary.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And it also has, a bunch of other features, price tracking, if you want to kind of let the assistant start to, watch a certain product and see when you have an opportunity to buy it and give it authority to buy it when it reaches a certain threshold.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have this agentic checkout, which uses Google Pay, of course. Very Merry Christmas to everyone. You're going to be able to do your Christmas shopping with Google.
I feel certain we're going to start seeing videos of people answering phone calls from Google and stop calling me.
That's a new meme. Yeah.
And remember that feature's been around for months now. They that was one of those sort of slow roll things they could call store. At some point I brought it up on the show and we're like, oh, we'll try it. And I think at that point it failed. It was within a day or two of when did it come out. And we were like, that's probably the last time I've thought about it. But you mentioned the travel thing, and I'll say this really, I'll try to be succinct about this because I know we want to get to a bigger topic today that Beth and Ann, you guys have. But I just feel like they miss, but I also realize that my vision of what a travel assistant will be is coming. And so for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, is every time OpenAI does the whole thing about going to another get floor seats at the Lakers game, I'm like, yeah, disconnected much. But that's not me, I'm not going to go out to dinner 16 times this week. That's not happening. I live in suburbia. That's not my life, but I'm busy. I've got a wife. I've got a daughter. We love traveling. We would much rather spend our money on experiences than on material things. And so if there was an app that didn't just come to me with a deal flight, but using all the Google services, including their awesome API into Google Maps now and all the things you just mentioned, Andy, I want somebody that says, hey, Brian, did you know this weekend you can fly out after school and work on Friday? You can come back on Sunday, so it's not too late. You can still get the grocery shopping done. Everybody's not going to be frazzled on Monday morning. From Tampa to such and such a place, And then when you get there, this would be, the ideal whole hotel. We've got that figured out based on your rewards points and that structure. It knows what we already have points in, and maybe it's tapped into that. And then it's able to quickly use like a Google Maps and say, if you approve all this, like you said, with a pricing structure, we'll put you on this tour. We'll do this. It'd be a great time if your daughter's 15 to go maybe finally see the Grand Canyon or whatever, right? And we'll just curate this. Land on Friday, home on Sunday, and we'll take care of everything. And if I prove it, it'll also put the driving directions directly into my Google Maps and set me up so that I already have what I need. And you go, yeah, all that exists. I don't know if there's the technology to make that seamless, where the kayaks of the world are giving you a deal across the whole thing, and they're integrated with your local tour operators that are going to put you on a rickshaw and take you around the city or something. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of pieces and parts to this. But I do believe it's possible. And that makes me excited that I could get an email on a Monday and say, we've looked at your calendar. You could potentially pull this off. We know you have a budget, right? But like you can pull this off for under $1,000 and you'll get to see one of the great wonders or something like that. Great opportunity for your daughter at that age or whatever. I mean,
well, what you're
I think they would get me. I think they would.
Yeah. What you're describing to me is part of this progression toward you having a personal agent that is knows your has integration with your calendar and your knowledge base, and it understands where you've been before. It has memory. So it's going to provide all those things. And I think that's outside of the travel planner that's on a major portal like Google.
Yeah, right? You're right.
So to that point, this past summer, I did a trip to the East Coast, and I used GenSpark to do all of the planning, including determining where in the flexible routing there were things that would be of interest to me. And it had that instruction from me, like, give me the full picture of all this stuff. And it was really quite satisfying to have that develop a really complete set of possibilities, including all the specific flights and other things like car rental, etc.
You're absolutely right. As you say, Andy, you're absolutely right. It is more of a personal AI agent that has more knowledge about the things that matter to you. If it knows me and my family, it knows that we're willing, like, try to beat us on the no check bags policy or whatever. Like, I will go down to a fanny pack if that's what I have to do. If you say it only fits in here and I'm like, challenge accepted, I'm going to the Grand Canyon for 3 days with this fanny pack on. That's what's happening, right? So like, I like a good challenge. We've traveled around Europe like that with my family. We don't mind going with just what we have. So, I'm not paying your extra fees and stuff. So I need an agent that understands that I don't want to see your upgrades. I guarantee you, I'm gonna, I'm gonna take the cheapest option, and that's what's gonna get me to the Grand Canyon. And I need you to know that. Anyway, all right, we can talk about that forever, I think. Beth or Ann, do you guys want to kind of, if you're ready to, like, I know there was something about digital twins. Is that sort of where you guys want to go? Okay.
Yeah.
So Andy and I were talking about digital twins last week, and we went sort of very high level with like big companies that are doing this, like for like industry knowledge management, or like your entire corpus of memories. At the Create conference, Cindy Kuhn actually shared part of what she does, and also, Anne, you had mentioned Katie Dunn, right? Do you want to take it from there?
Sure. I think this is a particularly timely topic because you may have heard of this, like, Tony Robbins Summit. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but interestingly enough, what they sold was a 7-course series of making a digital twin for $995. Just so everyone is aware, that is the offer. And so it's kind of mind-boggling that we all inside our bubble, we could just tell people all the things, like, And so I did toy with making some spoof advertisements that look like the cheesy, Tony Robbins, everybody like this. And all this stuff.
All
I
the
can toy around.
heads.
Yeah, just say like, hey, we can do this with you for, $895, not $995.
Yeah.
I got you. Right. And of course, the other thing to consider, the cultural impact of that summit is that now people who are like Rachel Woods, they've met Rachel Woods for the first time. They met Allie Miller. They met Sabrina Romanoff. Now they're coming into their community. So
Yeah.
last Friday, I met 3 or 4 women who don't know how to use AI at all. Bought the Tony Robbins thing, figured they were
Really?
smitten with Sabrina because she absolutely crushed it, have come into Sabrina's community, showing up at events where we're all talking up here about the things that we're building, and they're like in the I use ChatGPT for email mode.
Right.
Now, possibly AI Advantage is going to take them along, right, and get them to the point where they can do all this stuff, and it's no brainer, and it's not that hard to teach people to do this. But I just wanted to mention that I think the digital twin, which those guys were calling it they were like, well, we kind of call it a clone, we kind of call it a twin, we're not exactly sure. I think it's going to get a resurgence. So I think talking about it today is a really good idea. I just quickly, I think of here are the totality of my notes. I should have been a doctor, obviously. I unhinged writing, but I think here's how I would break up digital twins, and other people will probably have other examples, but I would say there are 3 categories. One is as an internal tool, and that's kind of, the words biz bestie may not apply to how everybody relates to their AI, but it's kind of like the biz bestie. It's got all of your stuff, your branding, your offers, your how you talk, all that stuff, and it's your go-to for pretty much anything you're doing when in your business, okay? And those can start with, uploading your brand, guidelines, and it can go all the way to like the really, really specific stuff, and really, like, got to maintain it. So the internal biz bestie. The second one is, I'm just going to use the word sentimental. Like, I don't have a use case for that, and so if it doesn't have a use case, it kind of doesn't exist in my life. But it's like pouring yourself, your bio, maybe your family stories. Like, you could see using this with an elder at Thanksgiving, getting their family stories out, bio, autobiography, where it's just like, hey, this is who I am. And you can imagine maybe segmenting it to a genre of your life so that you can put it out into the world. Like I said, I don't have a use case for it, but someday maybe I will. And it takes too long, but that's just me. The other thing is in your client communication. So this could be used as a lead magnet. It could be used as a buffer between you and your clients. It could be monetized. It could be on the front end of an offer. It could be on the front end of a publication, your book, etc. And the model that has kind of caught my eye comes from Katie Dunn, who she's going to be on our podcast pretty soon. She's a venture capitalist, and what she does is she sets it up so that people who want to do like I pick your brain kind of conversations, where she ends up answering like the same 10 questions over and over and over. She has an excellent digital twin with all of that kind of advice that she would give out. She's put it in a nice user interface. You get the first 3 questions for free, and then it's gated, but it's not, I think it's like $7 or something, because she does want to help people. She just wants to say, like, are you serious enough that you're going to spend $7 if they're going to go closer into farther down her funnel?
Sure.
And that's so when we were talking, Andy, I feel like we were talking about different use cases, and that seems to be like a very helpful for, like, it's giving good into the world. It's also creating some expectations in a relationship, and it is
Yeah.
a very specific use case, right? That is
Yep.
set up for those specific questions.
Yes. The one thing I'll add is that I think that the talk about digital twins oftentimes omits the conversation about how are you actually getting people to go to your digital twin? Like,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
have to have a marketing funnel around it, or you've just made something for the sake of making it. If it's external facing, and I feel like we never talk about that. So we've got all these people building these things of beauty that just sit there. They barely get used. So you got to market. You got to convince the people to go to your digital twin if you're going to go to all that trouble.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Look, it's to me, if somebody was going to truly sell me on that idea, it wouldn't even really be about the AI. Obviously, I feel confident with the AI stuff. It would be that this is going to be a 2026 program. We're literally going to meet bi-monthly, and there's going to be checkpoints along the way, so that as long as you had that accountability partner along the way, you were going to complete some homework about whatever. Maybe it's the sentimental stuff. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
knowledge dive, or past job history. And, Andy, you've certainly talked about this before. It's like, if I was going to build something, it's not a huge part, but it was instrumental to me. And so I'm going to have something that I want to say about being a karate instructor at the age of 14, because it was instrumental to me in the way I think about training. Right. And so having the ability to, like, somebody go there, go spend 30 minutes and do that thing, and don't worry about where this leads. We're going to help you through the whole thing. But obviously that's a huge commitment. It's way, 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 way harder than selling something for $9.95 and, quite frankly, not caring whether somebody finishes the first module or not. You're done, right? You've got your money.
You got your money.
So that will be interesting to hear more about that, Anne, about like how the new women that have shown up in your guys' communities and like Sabrina's and stuff like that, whether ultimately it was valuable to them. But I would almost predict that in some cases, the value won't be the $9.95 from the digital twin.
No.
It'll be that it led them to amazing communities where they're supported. And they'll say, well, yes, I never really completed module 8, and that was the intended purpose, but I don't care, because I would have never known about Sabrina or Rachel or Allie or you, and so I would have never found She Leads AI. I would have never done this, whatever, had I not found it through this, the person that I knew, which was Tony Robbins. So
totally fine gateway drug. Nothing surprising there. Like just Tony Robbins being Tony Robbins. So the people who bought it because he's Tony Robbins, maybe to your point, they're going to get all sorts of other unintended benefits that, to your point, and you've probably seen this many times with teaching, is like, people will fall off, and yet that doesn't mean that they didn't get a transformation. It just means they changed their path along the way. So
it could be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying AI Salon has a learn out loud on how to create a digital twin.
Yes, there's a lull in the AI Salon, and I also have a really amazing tutorial that I just got my hands on. So if anyone is interested, I can share that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And
are you guys okay with wrapping up? Otherwise, I got to drop.
Yep.
And you guys can keep going.
I just want to say that when I talked about Cindy Kuhn, part of the people that she has done digital twins with is Kyle Shannon, who is AI Salon, who is also partners with Anne in the what is your podcast called?
The AI Readiness Project.
Nice.
Yes.
It's a cool podcast. I was lucky enough to be a guest on it. I had a lot of fun with it. So.
It was fun. We're just really quickly, we called our first season 0, because we're so like not confident about everything. So and we did 32 episodes in season 0. We're in season 1 now, everybody. We've
graduated.
And I think Gareth is on tomorrow. Gareth is either on tomorrow or like, I think it's tomorrow, either that or next week. I can't remember.
All right.
Yep.
Can't wait to hear that.
Awesome. It'll be fun.
Okay, I'm going to wrap things up really quick. Thank you guys. Thank you, Anne, for coming in and being here. Thanks to everybody else for hanging out with us today. Come back tomorrow and the rest of the week. We will be here. And yes, there's an American holiday coming up next week, but we have been live on every holiday and every weekday since we started. So rest assured that if you're trying to run away from the family and hide out in a closet for a little bit, come listen to the Daily Eye show on Thanksgiving Day. Some of us will be there. I don't know who, but some of us will be there. We'll figure it out by next week. So that's it for today, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
I don't have the end button. Do you, Brian? And
Welcome to the after show.